Hey everyone, Marsh from Consequence here. I want to go over Fyrakk. I know a lot of guilds are on this boss right now, and I want to make it as easy as for you guys as possible because there's a lot of little things you can do early on that will make a huge difference on this fight. So the first thing I want to go over is the ERT note, and I do not take any credit for this. This is not my. I don't do this anymore. So first here, this is not linked to any WeakAura. These are just P1 assignments for soak groups. The rest of this is from the liquid pack. So, and I think we also use the Pop-Tart Corn Dog Interrupt WeakAura in P2 if you want to use that. But these are basically spell IDs and orders for CCs in Intermission 1. Or sorry, for P2. And then for Intermission 1, this is the WeakAura. That's basically forcing people to certain sides. So like you want to have one tank forced right, one tank forced right, and then left, and then immune spread out, and we always put our Disc Priest to be proud in the middle. Some guilds put a lot more like names in this list, but we just keep it simple and everyone else just gets good. These are kicks and CCs for P2, which we will go over. And this is Corrupted Seed assignments for P3. So those are the WeakAuras, and again, most is from the liquid pack. There's nothing special we did or anything like that. And now I'm going to pull up a video. Actually, before I talk about that, we're going to talk about composition. So, we did not run a full meta comp, and that's okay. But there are a few things that you do need to have in your raid at the current second. If not the boss, I don't want to say impossible, but you're like actively making it really, really, really hard. So the first thing is a Mistweaver. Mistweaver basically hard carries P2. It's crazy, and it's very good in P1. It's good in all fight, but it's really, really, really good in P2. Other than that, you definitely need at least one priest, which you'll probably have anyway. But two priests is pretty good for life grips and mass dispels. You can get away with one, but two is very good. And then you need to cover all your raid buffs, obviously. Double Rogue, extremely powerful. You can't get away with one if needed. And then two Evokers, also extremely good in P2. Without two Evokers, it's really, really, really tight on healing, or on getting the healing on the tree correct. So, comp does matter. Now, the other thing to note is range DPS is pretty bad for doing, like, they just don't do good damage, especially in P3. We probably have like the best range DPS in right now, which would be AUG Evokers, who are very, very good, BM Hunters, who are very, very good, and then we have a Mage and Warlock. Warlock has a lot of, it's pretty decent. It does like pretty good boss damage, and does really good add damage, but we'll go in that more. Mage is bad, but buffs everyone else. And then we have a Shadow Priest as our second priest. A lot of guilds, like obviously a Holy Priest would be the best healer, but we are like, I think we're one of the first guild. I think we might be the first guild to do a Resto Shaman. We have a Resto Shaman on the roster, so we work with him, and we have a Resto Shaman. But like that Disc Priest, Hpal, and Mistweaver Monk are like really critical to how you build your comp, with Mistweaver just being like absolutely wild. So that is the comp. And now let's talk healing CDs. So the first time ever we're going to make our healing CDs public. We used to never do this. I take absolutely no credit for making this. This is a team inside the guild that does this. I'll link it in the video, and I might refer to it a few times. But if you want to see like how these are done at the higher end, then you can come in and take a look. And all our bosses are here. So let's go to the video. So we're going to hop in, and the first thing we're going to do here is, I'm going to kind of go rant about AUG Evokers. So, AUG Evokers, we want AUG Evokers to buff certain targets at certain points, and everyone's comp's going to be different. So we've had meetings with our AUG Evokers, we've talked about it as a guild, and Basically, what's happening here is I'm standing on a stack because I'm a BM hunter, and I'm trying to get the Aug Evoker buff off of them. They're buffing the rogues though, so I'm trying to get the buff. And once these frontals come out, I am just going to move away. And as you can see here, I think I do get the buff this pull, but that's the reason for that. But in other parts of the fight, don't need the buff, and then when I have like CDs again, they'll give me the buff again. So these frontals, basically what's going to happen is you can pick them up, and they'll turn to the closest target and then fire off. So if you see this mage here, he's going to pick up this far one, it's going to point to him, then it's going to stop, wind up, and fire. A really good way to handle this is you need to have spatial awareness, obviously, but if anything looks sus, hey, melee, careful. We've used a bunch of words. We've just like yelled melee most of the time, but you can like use like a word to describe what's about to happen, and so people don't get comboed out. And I'll show that mechanic off again later. So the next thing is Firestorm. Now this first Firestorm is really important. It can be fixed later in the fight, but if you can grind this into people early, it's gonna save you a lot of P1 annoyance. So you can see here we're making like like a 3, or it was like almost like an L. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, but one target is just like this way, and then 3 are this way, and this is the gap. So what we did here is we had 2 markers. We had a skull marker and a green marker, kind of determine like what the front and the back, or the left or the right, or whatever you want to call it, is where people are going to drop. And we tried to have range drop here and melee drop here, and then people fill in. So we had like a little system. Sometimes it wasn't perfect. If you stack these up, it's just going to jump to a new location, which can be really, really troll. I don't know if it's going to happen this pull, but there are ways to fix it. So out of this, we have frontals again, and I basically show up here every single time. My job is to grab a frontal that spawns like here. It's possible, but they all spawn here, and you can see the range players trying to grab them. And you can see like, oh my god, this one's going through melee. So hopefully someone calls melee, so the melee don't stand there. Looks like 2 of them got hit, but life moves on. Now, we're going to our first soaks that are mythic only. And the way we did it, and every guild does it different, is we had outer, middle, inner. So outer to us meant whatever's closest to the edge of the room. So it kind of inversed halfway through, but some guilds do left, right, center. But we did we did outer, middle, inner. So I'm outer, and you can see that here. So you can see outer, double hunter, double rogue, DH, Windwalker monk. And then middle is basically the healers, and then like the melee that just like kind of want to stick on the boss fully, on long arms or anything like that, or a lot of mobility. And then inner, which was the other side, like 2 down, is the range DPS mostly, the cat, the feral druid, Hpal, another range. So yeah. And the first thing to note is we've tried to have our tanks take these double. So you'll see here the prop paladin tank standing in there, and I think the blood is trying to stand in this one. So they take 2 stacks, but you cannot take more than 2. These are going to come down, and we're good. So now we're going to spread out, and we get Blaze with frontals. This is extremely dangerous in farms guilds early on, especially, and it will just randomly farm you 200 pulls in. So generally, the rule of thumb is if you get Blaze, you're in a lot of danger, because what can happen is these frontals can just combo you out. So on like the second or third night of Prague, I just defensived every single time I got this. But in this situation, I knew I was 100% safe because there was no frontal near me, and I was on the edge looking for a frontal. But a lot of the time, I would defensive this. If I got like a Blaze and there was a frontal close to me, or I noticed a frontal like pointed at me over here, I'd instantly personal. And now what we're doing, we have Resto Shaman, so we're working our way into the Spirit Link, but every guild's going to be different. So also, this kills melee all the time. These are going to come down and just like dunk melee. So you have to be a little careful of that. So now we're going to get to the dance. So we have two markers. We have purple marker, and I think moon was on the other side, but we'll see in a second. So the way this was handled was, hey, if you're mobile, be to the right of this marker, and if you're not mobile, be on the marker. And what's going to happen is these little orbs are going to shoot out, and they're going to target players. So what ends up happening is if you have someone left of the marker, then it's just going to kill people. But if you have some like really mobile people to the right of the marker, the orbs might target them, making things a little more lenient, and your less mobile people are on the marker, so it's just easier for the whole group to swing. This was called by our blood DK tank because it's just the easiest for the tank to see. As you see here, I'm trying to like backpedal and DPS and watch, so I didn't call it this. But what we're basically doing is we're just milking it a little. So we're waiting, like this WeakAuras is off, we're waiting. The blood DK is going to see like right here, and he's going to say, okay, move, and then wait, move, and then, or we say big move. So we big move. So we want to bait like all of these like over here because we're moving for a blaze. So we milk that as much as possible, and that's how we do it. So we do a blaze here, also extremely dangerous. Like look how close these guys are. He got double blaze for sure, but look how close these guys are to these walls, and the double blaze can go crazy. General strategy for this is you can move up and down your line, or you can move with your blaze if you do it like really shortly after you get blaze applied to you, and then stop moving. So after this we have frontals. I try to grab one over here most of the time. That's going through the boss, and see I dodged it. And now we're saying pre-run for Firestorm. Because remember we made that L shape? If we didn't make that L shape, there would be like one here, and it would get super weird. It's still doable, but it just gets so weird. But now we have decent room, so we're like, okay, here we go. We place these four. The room looks absolutely beautiful. We're going to grab frontals again. And then there's going to be soaks again. So remember last time I was on the right side, now I'm on the left side. And I'm playing outer every single time, so I'm outer. We did have our Shadow Priest play inner, then outer, and had one of the hunters swap just so the Shadow Priest didn't have to run like extra yards and could actually play the game. That's like something minor you can do if you have immobile classes, but that's the only change we made with that. There's no WeakAuras for this, so you just have to be good. And I tried to like stand at your spot before to try to equally spread them out. But we'll call in voice like I'm going inner, or I'm going middle, if things get weird. So we have another blaze in frontals here, and you can see I picked up this one, and it's pointed to me, and I pointed away from the main group. However, like there's also this here, so I just walk forward to dodge it. And then I'm going to work my way into these domes. We always had our domes like this because like they're overlapping, but they also cover more space. So you can kind of like choose to DPS the boss or like choose to sit in both. Just minor. And now we're going to do a dance again. So again, it's the same concept. Like, hey, if you're mobile, be a little left of this marker. If you're not mobile, stand on the marker. And another thing to note is I didn't talk about this, is we have MDs assigned. This is the second one. The first one was on the other set. So that's just one thing to note. We also had like rescues assigned here for our priests. We also gave our disc priest spell warding during I think the first set, but the healing note will just tell you for sure. So he's able to heal and just get like hit by all these orbs. So the tank, if you listen to our VOD, you'll hear it. It'll be like waiting, move, big move is the call we make every time. So he's a DK, so he's just kind of standing there and he's waiting, and we're calling. We're baiting everything, calling, baiting everything, and we're big moving because we have blaze here. Move. So here, sometimes I moved way further, but there was a blaze there, and I'm just looking right here. Like, am I going to get hit? Am I going to get hit? Just in case there's a cheater orb. Other than that, we grab blaze, and now we're going to talk about DPS. So, there is, if you look at our kill time in logs, you will see it's 940. Which is currently the rank 1 speed public log, which is kind of impressive because this was our first kill. And there's a big reason for that. I did a lot of moving of CDs, and we're going to talk about what we did to achieve this and why it's very important to achieve this. And this is like the big reason why we underpull the boss. Um, so the first thing is, when are people using CDs? Like, that is going to be the biggest indicator of what you do. So over here, I'm gonna. This is not anything I'm going to provide. This is not even fully accurate, but I want to give you an idea of how you can set up your raid. So, um, we had DHs swapping during holidays and attendance stuff. So basically, what I did is we had a sheet generated, and we're like, hey, everyone, put in your CDs. That is like, look at a log, put in your CDs. What do you think? So what ended up happening is we had to structure our CDs in a way to maximize single target to try to skip as much as the last phase as possible, because the last phase is extremely punishing. Now, the first thing that we did that guilds do not do on their initial prog, which I think is a mistake, is they wait for the next frontal ability, which is in 10 seconds. So the boss pushes at 70%. So what a lot of guilds at this level were doing was like waiting like literally 10 seconds of just stopping DPS and then getting a shorter milk on the boss, because the frontal cast is much shorter than Firestorm. So what you're going to see here, and we're actually a little behind. This is not the greatest milk in the world. We pushed this before, like when it's 0.1. This was like a 0.4 push. So right now we're pushing through Firestorm, which is 4 seconds long, and we're just draining the boss. Also note that you have to run these out. You have to run these out. I'll say that a million times. It'll wipe you if you don't. But if we push that like 0.3 faster, this boss, we've seen this like under 68% before. Easily. But we milk like 1.5% damage just right there. And other guilds were milking like less than that because they were doing it on the frontal. So this was a bad milk for us. And that's one of the first things to kind of consider. However, if you don't have enough DPS to make that Firestorm, then you'll need to do it on the frontal. So if you look here, you can see, like, I think the beginning stuff might be accurate. So, you know, most people are seeding on pull, right? But like, okay, who's seeding at 2 minutes? And 2 minutes is, you know, when the first set of 2 minutes come up. And you will see the hunters using their 1 minutes. And that is it. Oh, and Windwalker Monk, who's doing something special in P2, is using their CDs. And that's it. That's all we're using. So another thing to note is pot usage. So I kind of disagree with some decisions people made in Raid. I don't even know if it's worth me showing it. But we had people potting, like some people potting at the end of P1. So like, oh my god, the boss flies away, you're not doing any damage in that phase. However, because we're potting at the end of P1, those people, like the hunters were doing it, those people are doing more damage to the boss, even just during the milk. You're going to need your pot up for P3 anyway, so there's only a few parts of the fight you can use it. Pull at the end of P1, on the shield, or if you have some special circumstance like our Windwalker Monk and maybe one other person did like a special pot. But most people were doing on pull or in P1 intermission or at the end of P1. Another thing to note, I didn't mention this, is verse files are very, 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 very powerful. 17 out of our 20 members, maybe 16, ran verse files. It's only 1% DPS loss, and it's definitely worth it to just take the extra verse. So that's the first thing to note. So this is the milk we get, and now the next thing we're gonna do is once this boss lands, we're hitting the boss. We're milking for every damage we got. So that's like another important factor. So now let's talk about P1 intermission. And we're going to go back to the DPS in P2. It's very relevant in P2. But let's talk about P1 intermission. So we had talked about that macro. And you need to macro if red. This is caused by Blizzard trying to break weak auras. Just caused basically making it like you're telling your weak aura to activate. So instead of it activating on its own, you're like, oh, I'm red. Activate for me, please. So this is really annoying. So basically what's going to happen is, this is how I handle it. Everyone does this differently. Oh, and I didn't even talk, sorry, one more thing to talk about P1. There's a dot. The healers use a weak aura to dispel the dot. Most of our raid was dwarfs to make it easier for them. That's something they might nerf about the boss. But I'm either going to dwarf or get dispelled here. I got dispelled. So the way I handled this is, once the boss's feet hit the ground, I gatewayed. I didn't look at a timer or anything. Some people use special timers and stuff. I rarely got knocked up. And it's like whenever the boss hits the ground, I gate. And then what I do is I look here. I am red. I land. I macro. You can see here. I land. I macro. I'm not trying to rush anything. I am just like, boss lands, gate, comprehend what color I am, land, macro. Now if I'm purple, I should not macro. So the weak aura is basically like, okay, who are the first 10 people that macroed? Those guys are red. Here's the display. However, there's a problem. What happens if a purple person macros or not 10 people macro? Then the weak aura doesn't work and it completely bricks. If 10 people do not macro, it will auto-populate at 5 seconds, which is borderline useless because at that point orbs are already spawning. And if a purple guy hits it and 11 guy hits it, it's just going to activate on the 10th, and everyone's going to be disorganized. It's just going to put weird assignments. So we got good enough to kind of like combat mistakes, but setting this up was a nightmare. So like what we also had to do was, let's say, I'll even show you. I have a Fyrakk, well, I have a Tendril one too, but I have a Fyrakk just loadout, just straight up. Because if I lose this macro, I just throw pulls without maybe not even knowing it. So whenever I do Fyrakk, I switch on my Fyrakk. My macro always goes on my bar. I do not forget it. There's situations where people like go do M+, and then they're like, oh, I macroed. But they didn't macro. It wasn't on their bind because they just did M+. So that's just something that, is something to note. And then if it breaks, you need to look at a replay and troubleshoot. Which is why I think in our macro we have, like, I hit my macro, or people put random crap in there. But that allowed us to look at the replay and be like, okay, these people hit their macro, why is there 11? Or why is there only 8? Like, so we'd troubleshoot, and we would really, really, really make sure this was done right. We actually didn't have that much problems in this phase compared to other guilds, and that was just the due diligence of troubleshooting and being really aggressive. So let's talk about P1 intermission. So everyone hits their macro, and this weak aura pops up. Now, I was forced to go to 3 every single time. However, if you are not being forced, you can go to basically anything, but it will like favor you certain ways, but it can really you can really do anything. So the first thing to note here is there's a bug. Actually, we'll talk about that in a second. So the first thing is my call was just counting, because the way the weak aura works is I need to get the third fire orb on the left. So I'm counting 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I counted. I was checking if one was over here, but 1, 2, 3. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna stand still and let it take me. There is a bug. I don't know if it's gonna show up in this video. I don't think it does, but the orbs can go through you, which is incredibly frustrating on early prog, because like you clearly did the mechanic and then you get punished for it. The way the bug works, we think, is if you're moving, the chances of it happening are significantly higher. So you need to stand in the line of your orb and plant. You cannot move, you cannot stutter, step, you plant. As a BM hunter, I kind of can cheat the system, but even here you can see I'm just dead set. Like, I do not want to chase this orb. I am just standing here. And now I'm counting again. Okay, 1, 2, 3, plant, done. There's a weak aura I'm going to provide a description. Actually, I could probably just play it. So if you listen, we just, every time we got an orb, it made a noise cue to tell us that we successfully got the orb as well, because we were having problems with like the orbs going through people, and they're like, oh my god, I didn't even know it went through me. So now we get to the last set. So these are the first two sets. Also, one thing about these orbs is they increase, like the amount of them increase every single time. I think it's like 12, then 15, I don't know, 8, then 12, then 16, something like that. It like increases every single time. So now there's this immune set, and basically this is how we do it. This is why we're forcing people to certain sides. So we have a prop paladin tank playing far left. He's responsible for these. I'm playing left 3. I'm responsible for these. And the holy paladin's playing over here. He's responsible for these. And the hunter's playing here. He's responsible for these. So now what you're going to see here is I'm going to go out for positioning, but I have a blaze. This is actually really, really good. So I could immune and just run, but then I'm running a blaze through the entire raid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run on my line, wait for the blaze, pop cheetah, and go. Now, I usually communicate in voice that this is happening, so the prop paladin can get an extra orb when he's running this way, or the holy paladin can get the orb at the very tip here. However, this set, I can usually get a lot more than that, but I don't want to just troll people with the blaze. So that's really, really important. The other thing to note is, okay, you can kind of see the orb going through me on this last set, so take a look at this. It has not registered yet, and I know it's not registering, so I'm running with it, and I finally take it. But the other thing to know about this last set is your raid needs to assume they are still doing the mechanic. You cannot just AFK and assume that the immune people are going to carry you. The orbs can go through them. You need to still line up with the correct number and count and just plant and make sure that you can cover anything that the immune guys missed. That is very important. It will literally one-shot people randomly in your prog if you don't do that. So that is how we handle P1 intermission. It's a pretty miserable phase, I'm not going to lie. There's a blaze here. It's better to push right after the blaze. But, you know, we never really, like, planned for that or anything. And once the shield breaks, we're like, milk, 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 because the boss is damageable now. So we're dotting the boss for full damage, making sure that the boss is taking damage when it's not there. We want to get it as low as possible. So now, the boss is going to come down. I've always moved my pets, yes, 100. I moved my pets here, and then I waited for the jump, and then applied. Sometimes I could get, like, my barb shot to last, but this pull I wasn't able to. So now let's talk about P2. And again, let's look. P1 intermission. What's happening? CDs. These might be fake. Rogue CDs might be fake. Their timers make no sense. CD. So we do have CDs in P1 intermission. However, what do we have at 2 minutes? Not 2 minutes. It's gonna be 3:20. What do we have at 3:20? Oh, the hunter CDs are up. Okay. So like this is something we did with the Augs. The hunters held their second call to wild and used it on the boss. And the augmentation evokers knew that, so they should be giving us buffs ideally. And we're just gonna go. We played full single target, and we're gonna hit the boss extremely hard in this phase. Because we want to get the boss as low as possible. Every comp's going to be different. I'm going to talk about P2, but that's the goal here. So you can see I have my stacks and I'm ramping on the boss right now, and I'm just doing as much damage to the boss as humanly possible. I did not get a PI, the other hunter did, but that's just our comp. So let's talk about P2. So, first, you need to call a side. This is not my job in the raid. But the way it basically works is you're going to get a tree, and you're going to get normal adds, and you're always going to play on the side that the normal adds spawn. So the call is play X side, which is this marker. We play X side because you can see that these small guys are spawning here. Now this is a set pattern, and the tree is spawning here. It's way easier to dodge one mob than like 6. So, we're watching our blazes. If this blaze hits this tree, it is basically a wipe. So we're dodging the blazes, and we're also watching our feet. This part of the fight is extremely dangerous, and this happens twice in P2. So really, 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 really important. People use their personals early in prog and a lot during prog. Here, this set wasn't too bad because I knew I was completely safe. And I sometimes like to use my personals later in P2 if it gets scary. But that part, especially if you're in melee, is crazy scary. So the next thing is, how do these healing ads get healed? And I'm not going to sit here and just like break down every single set. Your healers need to look at logs. Your comp will come into play. But the Mistweaver basically cranks the tree, and the other healers handle the other ads. Easiest way of putting it. But there's a lot of nuances to this that might go unknown until you start digging. For example, Leap of Faith. You need to be gripping ads in this phase, certain ads. We are literally time spiraling people to grip ads. Mark of the Wild. You mark the ads every time they spawn. So our Druid, we actually have our healing note. Mark of the Wild, the ads. And there's Rescue. 1 north plus mid plus south. If you look at our VOD, you'll see them being rescued to certain locations. Also very important. So there's a lot of nuance in this phase that you need to figure out depending on your composition and how you're going to heal this in time. But if you look at our healing note, it will kind of break down like kind of what we did. Now let's talk about the mythic core mechanic of this phase. So you're going to get the golem spawn, and these golems, they do different things. But the general gist is you want to kill the red golem ASAP to remove the mechanics from this part of the fight. So our plan was very simple. It was, is this the one I troll? Nope. So our plan is very simple. It was kill the red golem, then kill the purple golem. As you can see, I Hunter's Mark it. We have a macro that I would always Hunter's Mark the purple one. But this mechanic here is the cage mechanic. So basically the way it works is if you get a purple circle around you, then you need to stand on the blue or X marker. You can live 3 people standing on one marker. You cannot live 4, but ideally you go 2-2 split. It is critical that these players are stacked up together, and I actually mess this up later, causing problems, and I'm going to point that out. It's actually a good learning experience. But you can see here that the players are going to stack up together, and if you get the red circle around you, you need to macro. So basically the way this works is the first 2 people to click the red macro will be assigned to break. And these mechanics can go on anyone, including healers across the room healing ads. I don't know if I should be saying this or not, but if you hit the macro late, you're not going to break. And usually healers don't want to hit the macro in the first few seconds, and they want to let the DPS handle this so they can heal the ads. And you'll see here that I hit the macro, but I'm not one of the first 2 targets. And this is just a bad habit I had early in prog, because initially we're like, hunters shouldn't click macros early because we have a hard CC job, which is true. But eventually we just realized we should be clicking the macro. So I was a little inconsistent with like the speed of it because of my muscle memory. But I click it like a second late, but 2 other people get it. And you can see that one's going to break blue and one's going to break X. The other thing to note is, look at this raid positioning. We are playing directly behind the marker or directly in front. Nothing else. No one here. No one here. No one using a movement ability to get in. You're just going to line up with your mark. Blue sees, oh my god, I'm blue. Let me line up. And break. Stand on top, and that's it. Every single time. Line up, walk in. Line up, walk in. Do not do anything fancy. You do not need to do anything fancy. So I don't get one of the assignments, so I just blow up for a little damage. And here, I have some CCs. This is where the weak aura comes in, so you can see it says kick/belt. But I get a blaze. If I got this blaze, these ads could have been problematic. But I basically can't hit ads with my blaze, so I'm being really careful. I'm also like completely like I'm starting to range some healers, and this person has blaze, so now this is getting really scary. But I'm gonna use a belt. But like, okay, what does that mean? We had to basically have most of our raid get engineering belts from Shadowlands to knock enemies. You can see it's set to 5 here for me. So that was a little annoying. That took like 20 minutes. But we get the engineering belt and I knock this add in because this is my assignment. And I'm looking to kick it after if it starts casting. You can see here that this got trapped by the other hunter. That is intentional. There's also a bug with the trap, so you have to trap after the dragon roars. You can't pre-trap it, probably due to some weird dragon thinking it might be the dragon. I don't know. So you have to trap after, and I knock, and then the evoker knocks, and then there's a mass grip. And then you might be thinking, okay, so what about everyone else? Also, DK tank is basically mandatory. So what about everyone else? Okay, well, we had a system for it, and you can see that I think this is accurate, but you can see this is the system we had. So, okay, trapped and gripped after ads, belt, and then Hunter High Explosives trap as backup, which was used a lot actually. I don't know if it happened on the kill pool, but like we would fix things with high explosive trap. You know, belt, knock, knock, belt, grip, grip. So every single set, and like this is set 2, which should be pretty similar. We had CCs for every single set to knock everything together into a mass grip, except for the one that got trapped. This one is just like if you had like a crazy comp that could deal with this, like maybe if you had like a Death Knight DPS, just go out and grip this would be fine. But like most guilds are just trapping it, so it's really up to you. We get everything together, we grip it, and we have a stun rotation. You can see it's going through now. And we basically just have to kill the burning before these explode. So, and we'll talk about like the mess up of the second set that I made, how we fixed it. But if you kill the burning before these explode, and then nothing happens, the whole mechanic just stops. And now we're just killing the Dark Colossus. And now we can actually talk about some boss damage stuff. So we'll kill the Dark Colossus. You'll see the DK tank will grip this in, and both ads are dead. So the first thing to note is how do we kill the ads? Like what CDs do we use? And the main CD we used there was the Windwalker CDs. Now there are a lot of people doing things there. P2. It must be this, right? Yeah, it has to be. This is all AoE. So you can see here that like these were our top damage dealers on these ads. So you know the Windwalker CDs were the big ones, but there's also a lot of other people absolutely slamming them. But you can see like the hunters, they didn't do anything because they CD'd the boss. We're doing like less than tank damage. Um, you know the rogues aren't doing much. The Shadow Priest isn't doing much. So we basically had to look like how can we kill these ads with doing as we're committing to as little as possible to them. That looked really clean and fast, but it wasn't always like that. So like okay, you're killing, good, and that's how we did it, and that's where that DPS CD sheet comes in. I can probably pull it up again. You'll see here like Burning Colossus, wait, this thing, Warrior, DH. This is old, I think. This might not be used anymore. This is why I didn't really want to show it. CDs from the Windwalker. So it's just like important to look at logs and confirm. But I just wanted to like show you a bigger picture. And then like let's take a look at the second set. So the second set, which must be this. It's not gonna be perfect. I want to look at like the whole thing and not just like certain stuff. I don't want to sit here and make a filter. So okay, million DPS, 730k. 412. Who's actually doing stuff to these, and then who's doing like not a lot, and that's on purpose. 121, 135, rogues. Um, so really, really, really important to kind of figure out like what you can pull them off to put on the boss. And you can see here the boss is gonna land, and I think like for sure like our frail druid's like seeding, but there's other people just seeding into the boss here and just cranking it because we're trying to get this thing as low as possible to skip mechanics in P3. So Blaze comes out, and we play the boss here, and we do not want to blaze these ads. So like if your Blaze is over these ads, you just need to just not. Like even if you're like running like 10 people over with Blaze, you cannot blaze ads in this phase. And now we're gonna have a frontal. Oh, you see, look, oh, time spiral grips are happening. Remember we talked about this? These are so the ads get to the thing faster, so they heal and they stall the whole time. Very important. So anyway, we're going, and we're making a dynamic call. So we're trying to find the safe spot. Which side are ads not spawning? We see this. We see this. We're playing left. Everyone play blue side. Go, 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 go. We adjust to blue. We get the blazes. We're not hitting ads. Very dangerous. A very, very, very common occurrence for us was a melee getting a diagonal blaze, not realizing it, and hitting these ads. That melee needs to be aware and just get out. They need to get out. They need to get away from the boss. They cannot blaze ads. Extremely common wipe for us. Probably our number one wipe in the last day. It's diagonal blaze. So now these ads are coming down, and we're milking the boss damage for Firestorm. These Colossi are still not down. We're hitting the boss. They're out. We're still hitting the boss. The Hunter's marked instantly because like it's just more efficient for damage, but everyone else should be hitting the boss until he leaves. Dotted up fully, leaves, burning. So this set, I think we for sure had Warlock and Shadow Priest, but the Shadow Priest is PIing the Warlock, and that was the majority of our set. And now we can see where I messed up. So initially, I thought I was blue. I don't know why. I actually didn't do this whole prog. And I realized, oh my god, I'm red. And I try to run out. And what happens here is the player thinks I'm stunned, even though I'm going to get out because I have a red circle around me. He thinks I need help out, and he's going to stand in between and only hit one blue target, and then me, who didn't need to get out anyway. And he's going to leave one person trapped for like the whole phase. And you can see like we can still do this fight with this phase with one person trapped. So that's the mess up. Is I thought I had the cage and then I didn't. Regardless, the phase continues. Now I'm trapping. Oh, sorry, he trapped because we both tried the trap. I just like was a little discombobulated because of what happened. So he traps. I have a kick here. I'm just watching. I'm grabbing any kick. CDs are coming. They're gonna mass grip and then step push. Perfect. That might have been high explosive trap fixed by the hunter. And now everything's together and we're just CDing. Hunters did CD here. And that's that is just up by 730, which is lust. So we kill everything, and then we're boss. If that ad does not need to die, it does need to die before exploding core. But once that's ready to go, hit boss, hit boss, hit boss, hit boss instantly. So right now the boss is 50%, which is absolutely crazy. And now we're at the end game of P2. So these ads just healed, good. And now we're like, okay, blazes do not hit ads. We shift over a little. Blazes do not hit. Blazes do not hit. We're just getting kicks on this guy. We're not targeting him down. We're all single targeting the boss. This is passive random cleave. And these cannot hit these. Good. And that's it. So this frontal can also cause them. There's a rescue on the big guy we were talking about. He's going in the heal. Everything's going in the heal. And we are just putting everything in the boss now. You're going to see I'm going to bloodshed here, and it's not going to get full value. Blaze again. I'm going to bloodshed. And he's going to fly away. And if we P1 pushed like we usually do, this would be like 41.8%. So he's going to go away. And this is the big difference between our speed of prog. A lot of guilds there are like 45% push, 44 point something. We're at 42. We are going to skip a lot of mechanics in the last phase. a lot of seconds in the last phase, which is a lot of mechanics happening at the same time. So now it's P3 time. This week, in the middle of my screen was super annoying. I think I fixed it after Prague, but whatever. It showed me where my character was at the end of the day. It's showing Mark of the Wild was cast in the middle of the raid. I had no idea what was causing it. So ignore that. But anyway, I'm gonna grab a seed here, and oh, I don't have it open anymore. That's fine. I'm gonna grab a seed here, and me and this other hunter are gonna do a little dance. But let's talk about positioning. So I made the initial raid plan, but this is like an updated raid plan by someone a little more artistic. So basically, these are the seed drops, and this is where the raid's gonna be. There's a few things to note. Tank is getting this one, which is completely and utterly fine. Mage, Hunter. This was actually backwards, but it doesn't matter. So now, what's going to happen? These seeds need to play in certain parts of the fight. This is the tornado drop-offs for the main group. This is the tornado drop-off for the mage, and this is the tornado drop-off for the hunter. So you're going to see, oh, and this healer is positioned here, this H paladin. Very important. He needs to heal these targets. And he will drop his tornado. I think it's this way for this set, but he needs to pre-run every single firestorm tornado drop. Everyone he needs to pre-run. So, because he's not going to be able to make it if he doesn't pre-run. Anyway, they're going to come down. You can see the Holy Paladin here. Oh, sorry, that's the tank. You can see the Holy Paladin here. And now, basically, I had this bound to G, but everyone's different. You have to have your extra action button bound. And every time you get a mechanic, the way we handled it is, I got a mechanic, I insta-drop. It doesn't, like, you can't move your beam first and then drop. You drop instantly and go. So I kind of had like a protocol here. I get the tornado, and I instantly drop and then disengage, and my goal is to get it to as close as edge as possible. If it's like up here, it's really bad. So I want to get it as close to the edge as possible. And now I'm going to go in. But okay, what happened here? You're going to watch the other hunter move over. You can't see it on my screen right now, but wait a second. He moved over, and he is watching my seed. There can be fire circles that spawn on your seed. If that happens, he needs to drop his seed, pick up my seed, take it out of the circle, drop my seed, and then pick up his seed, or I can just pick up his seed. So he's watching my seed, being really careful. Nothing happens to it. I'm back. And we have Blaze again, and we're going to move in. And I'm going to talk about like the dance me and this other hunter did. But the first one per our raid plan is here. So all we're going to do is grab the buff, leave. You don't need to stand there. You just grab the buff and leave. And we're running through the boss so we can establish ourselves in the next part. And this is where Lust is. So let's take a look at the raid plan. So this is the seed. This is what you saw here. We ran through, we seeded, and we ran through the boss. Now, there's going to be 2 corrupted seeds and new corrupted seeds. And then the 3 old good seeds are left. See, the hunters are in the same spot. The mages in the same spot. And now that the tank and the demon hunter are grabbing the new corrupted seeds. And now the raid is moved closer to in this pocket. Even more so than probably what this raid plan is we're up here. Because we're trying to drop tornadoes here now. Let's see if he has it. Yeah. So we're trying to drop tornadoes here now. And not over here. So we're positioned here, we're dropping. He is still pre-running this way, and the hunters are playing here. And as you can see here, the healers are all positioned over here so they can hit everyone. If they're over here, they won't be able to hit people. So hit, hit. So let's go back. And let's talk about kind of what we're going to do. I'm trying to wait till we get a blaze, and I'll talk about it. So we got swirls. We're repositioning around the screen marker. I'm trying to like dip in because I notice I'm out of range of 2 healers. But it's more important to stay in this position. So we're waiting. We have Blaze again. He doesn't get Blaze. But you can see that the Mage's Blaze is here. So we might be like too much to the left, but like you can see like if we're any more right, it gets really scary. So maybe he should move over a little. This is all very minor. But he drops his seed instantly, moves forward a little. He moves forward to compensate, and it's fine. Tornadoes are running out. They're going to this spot. Then we get Blaze again, and we're in this position. Let's see if we get Blaze this set. Oh, yes. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. It's not perfect, but it's fine. So basically you can see in my personal note here is there's like a little dance. So back, left, back, left, back. And this is just like for each blaze we're supposed to do a little dance, but here we kind of figured out like if you basically just move like if I just move back left and he just moves front right, then our blazes will never cross. So you're going to see is we're both going to get blaze, we're both going to drop instantly, and then I'm going to move back left, and he's going to move front right, and our blazes will never cross our seeds. Ever. Ever. Like before we were wiping each other by standing next to each other and having weird stuff happen, but nope, we stand in this position, back left, back right, drop, boom, boom, pick up, safe. And now we're going to go in, so hopefully that made sense. So now we go in, and this is the mage seed. We're going to gateway out. All I do is get the buff and go. And the boss is just getting absolutely rinsed. And again, we're in this like position here, like this like little diagonal. And again, let's take a look at the raid plan. So this is this. So we came in for that seed, and now we're positioned in the same position. And there's new corrupted seeds out. You get the evoker seed, the warlock mage seed, new one. And these two were transferred. So the tank and the DH Windwalker group transferred their seeds. And the way you transfer, like every class combo is going to be different on when you want to transfer. So I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, just transfer between every roar set. Like you need to look in logs and like figure out when you need to transfer and when it's the safest to transfer. But one thing we did is we had some people, like we picked this up from like another guide, but we had people like ping their other person like, hey, I'm dropping my seed and it's right here. There's a macro. So they pinged and they dropped the macro. And they dropped their seed and the other person picked it up. So again, we're going to get Blaze. We're dodging swirls. Again, we get Blaze. Okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go left a little, back left a little, and he's just going to go to the right. We're completely fine. Every single time, no problem at all. It's just beautiful. So we grab him again. And tornadoes are being ran out every single time. And now this is the third set. So what I'm doing here is I'm like, am I going to get a blaze? If yes, deal with it. If no, start running. And which we do. You can see us like going in. We're going to, oh, and I didn't talk about this, very important. We want to bait swirls off where we're going to go and then go on where we're going to go. So you can see like the raid here, like baiting swirls here and then moving to the safe zone. We drop, we run through the boss. And now I don't know how to see the rest of the fight. So I start calling here. I did not call P3 up until this point because it's just like takes way too much concentration to juggle a seed. So now let's take a look at the planning. So that's what we're talking about. Evokers playing here. We have grips assigned here. You'll see this in our healing note. These guys drop here. Seed goes here. So yeah, we did grip people into the seed safe location who are farther away and it's harder for them to get to. So this is the last setup. Are we back? We're back. Sorry, this video's gone so long, my headset died. So basically, this is the last setup here. The way this is going to work is we have our corrupted seed players play here. You can see there's new corrupted seeds coming out. These guys did a swap. These guys did a swap. New seed got it. and the good seed's playing in this pocket. I'm also watching him constantly, but you can see the healers are here to hit these targets, and we're going to play on this side. Um, so what's going to happen here is, you see the tornado drops, is I'm playing in the new main group. And I get a blaze, and I didn't talk about the main group at all, so now we're going to talk about the main group. If you are in the main group, the number one rule of the main group is you do not move your blaze. You do not know who's behind you, who's in front of you, who's next to you, how far your blaze goes. Who knows? Do not move it. You can move up and down your line. Do not move your blaze. You need to cater to these seeds, and the best way to do that is to be as static as possible. Do not move. So you can see I don't move there. And then these tornadoes come out. They're going to drop it behind us. They're doing a transfer there. And then the swirls come out, and the tornadoes are creeping in. And again, do not move with blaze. This guy got a blaze. And look how crazy this is. Like, if I'm moving here, I'm just like actively griefing all of these guys. So I just plant, I pop my personal, and I'm like, I am not moving my blaze. It's just not like that's it. However, if I do see obviously if I see my seed on a blaze sitting on the ground, I'm gonna move. And now we're gonna bait the swirls off the boss. We're pinging the safe zone. It's actually this guy. We're pinging the safe zone. We're gonna drop and the boss is dead. Because we did so much single target in P2 and the P1 milk, the boss is just straight up dead. And a lot of times, what ends up happening with guilds is they'll just like chain wipe at 3% for like 2 days. If you look at our progress, we like a lot of guilds like OT around us and stuff. We just kind of did our own thing, made sure we pumped single target, and we did not run into a problem. We're just chain wiping at 3%. What happens here, and you can look at other VODs to see, and you'll just see in our raid plan because we did prepare for it, is you do this, you run over here, and you're on a ticking timer to the end of the fight. There's a blaze set that happens, and you have all these corrupted seeds out, and a million tornadoes, and it's a disaster. So basically our goal was like, and we see guilds wiping there all the time. So our goal was like, okay, we're not gonna get that blaze. Like we knew we weren't gonna get that blaze for days, and a lot of guilds planned to not get that blaze. But two, we're gonna do so much single target in the last phase, we're not even gonna transfer over here. Because like there's tornadoes and fire and random stuff that can just happen. There could be a tornado dropped here and just randomly clip someone. So we're just gonna kill the boss by the 4th drop, and that's exactly what we did. The call I made in comms, like play as safe as possible if you have a seed in like the last 3%. We also did not transfer seeds past like 3 or 4%. If you had a transfer deal with your partner, you're just getting healed. You do not put your seed on the ground. You baby that seed like it's your life. And then as you can live, the boss will die. And that's kind of how we killed the boss so quickly. You can even see that like we assumed we were gonna be in here for at least the swirls, but we even skipped the swirls when you're transferring over. So that's kind of how we dealt with Fyrakk, and how we were so successful killing the boss so quickly, and how we got that speed and whatnot. I think that's like everything I have with the fight. There's some things I can kind of talk about, like with common like tips for progging. So when you're progging, you want to, like what we did is we just moved lust constantly. So we would lust on pull, and then we would lust in P1 intermission, and then we'd lust on P2 first adds, P2 second adds, and then we moved it to P3 spot. So that's like a common tip. Another tip for this fight is you cannot get mad at all in P3. Like random stuff's going to happen. Like there's a situation on this pull where is it the set? Nope. Where look at this. So watch this guy right here. He's the good seed. So he gets blaze. He's gonna drop it. He's gonna move. This guy with the corrupted seed gets blaze. He's gonna drop it. He's going to move. He moves it over the guy with the seed. He should have gone left. He was over the guy with the seed. It doesn't hit, and then he grabs it, and they grab it. There's just gonna be wipe. Like that was like pixels away from being a wipe, and there's just nothing you can do about some of those like shenanigans, and being just being calm and like understanding and like okay, stuff happens is like really really important. Another thing to note is I think we could have like done this prep a little different once we knew we were gonna like kill the boss this soon, but we were kind of like committed to the strat already. So we have a lot of melee carrying the corrupted seeds, and that's good because they are always in heal range and they're really they're tanky. But we really could have had like our hunters drop 2 and 3, for example, and then like take a corrupted seed because the hunters are really tanky and they can play anywhere and they're pretty safe carriers. So little things like that, but we chose to use the mage too because like it is easier for the hunters to carry the good seeds. So you're kind of trading off a little. Like I could have easily picked up a corrupted seed here and just catered it the rest of the fight, no problem. But this is something we didn't like plan for. Other than that though, I'd take a look at pot timings, log time, CD timings, and use multiple guilds to kind of make these decisions. One thing I will point out is like let's just take a look. Like we talk about boss damage so much that like you can see like P1 doesn't matter, who cares? But you can see like P2 like who was doing a lot of boss damage. P3 who's doing a lot of boss damage, and that's like a lot of what we accounted for. It's like how much damage you're gonna do to make sure you kill the boss, and obviously the P1 milk matters. We talked about that importance of like us getting it down like an extra like 3, like we probably got it down an extra 2 to 3% with our milk, and that could have been like a 0.5% wipe for us or something. So we just prevented us from having a 3% wipe. Um, Other than that, that's Fyrakk. I will put everything in the description. Best of luck of your prog. You can always message me on Discord if needed. That is all I got for you. Best of luck. I'm out. Peace.